problems. If you'll watch very closely, it should be a good review of stuff you've done in the past and some of the stuff that we've done this year. Percent problem says a percent is a ratio that compares a quantity with 100. If again, notice the word ratio there. We're talking about ratios here. If I say 7% of the people do this, that means if there was 100, 7 out of 100. Okay, like 7% again. Hang on, let me get my pencil up here. 7% means 7 out of 100. It's comparison with 100. Percent. Think about that word. Percent. Per means like per hour, per whatever. Per means out of. Cent. Think about a word that starts with cent. Can you think of one? Centennial. What's a centennial? Every 100 years. Centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. Centipede. Why do they call them centipedes? Why do they call them centipedes? 100 legs. Okay, cent means 100. So percent means out of 100. So 7% means 7 out of every 100. So, but what if there was 14? Remember what we talked about yesterday? 7 out of 100 means 14 out of 200 means 21 out of 300. So if I'm going to give you 7% of my money, remember I told you yesterday I was going to give you 7 out of every 10 or something like that. If I say I'm going to give you 7% of my money, that means I'm going to give you 7 out of every $100 I have. So if I have 200, you'll get 14. If I have 300, you get 21. If I have 400, you get 28, and so on and so forth. That's what percent means, in case you had never seen that before. The word percent actually means out of 100. That's what I just said. We need to know how to switch between fractions, decimals, percents. All three of those things are just three different ways of writing the exact same thing. A fraction and a decimal and a percent are the same thing, just three different forms. Kind of like solid, liquid, gas, three different forms of matter. Fraction, decimal, percent, three different forms of a number. First thing, to change a fraction to a decimal, and you kind of need to know these. Fraction to a decimal you should already know. You just divide. And when I say divide, 2/3, what does that mean? 2 divided by 3. That's what a fraction is. That fraction bar is a division symbol. A decimal to a fraction, we read the decimal. 0.3. I don't read it as 0.3. I read it as 3 over 3/10. That 3's in the tenths place. That's 3/10. Decimal to a percent, these are easy. To change a decimal to a percent, 0.37. You move the decimal twice to the right. Put it right there, and then tack on a percent sign. 0.37 is 37%. Easy. To change a percent to a decimal, 28%, you move it 2 places to the left. So therefore it'd be 0.28. Okay, that's all the different ones. So let's go through. Next set of problems says change each to all other forms. 40%, the first one. 40% is in what form? Obviously, percent form. We want to change it to a fraction. We want to change it to a decimal. Let's change it to the easy one first. What would be the easiest one? Decimal. Well, yeah, fraction's pretty easy too because I told you what percent means. Let's change it to a decimal first. Here's the decimal at now. If it's a whole number, the decimal is understood to be at the end. To change it to a decimal form, you move it 2 places to the left. 0.40. Watch closely though, guys. We don't need that 0. A 0 tacked on the very end of a decimal. You don't need it. You can dump it. So 40% is equal to 0.4. Check yourself. Move that to the right 2 places. Do you get 40? Sure. Now let's change it to a fraction. We have 2 different ways of doing this. You mentioned one of them, 40%, that's 40 out of 100. That's what percent means. 0.4 though, here's the easier way. Read that. That's 4/10. Make sure that you know your decimal places. Let's go through these before. Yeah, that's what I was going to do right here. Yes, you would. That's going to be 2/5. Let's make sure that everybody knows their decimal places. If I had the decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that 1 is in the tenths. The 2 is in the hundredths, 3 thousandths. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millionths, 10 millionths, 100 millionths, billionths, 10 billions, 100 billions, trillions, 10 trillions, 100 trillions, quadrillions, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I don't know. What about this though? Get really good at switching back and forth between these. What if I told you to take 2/5? Somebody has a calculator. Well, or maybe you do it in your head. How could I change that back to a decimal to make sure I'm right? 2 divided by 5, and you should get 0.4. Or here's how you do it with paper. 2 divided by 5. You're dividing by 5. You can't do that, right? Put a decimal 0, bring the decimal straight up. 5 into 20 goes 4 times. 0.4. Makes sense. Next problem says 2.5%. 2.5%. What's the easiest one to do? Decimal. Move it to the left twice. What do you get? 0.025. You got to move it once, that's fine. But move it twice, there's nothing there. You must put a 0 there. 0.025. Any questions? Now let's change it to a fraction. Again, to change it to a fraction, you read your decimal. This is in the what place? What's this? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. This is in the thousands. So this is 25 thousandths. Any questions? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 25 thousandths. But let's reduce that. 25 will divide into both of those. That'll be 1 over 40. How can we check ourselves? 1 divided by 40 should give you 0.025. Any questions? Huh? Not much more than this. Is this pretty easy? 0.75. Change it to the other two. This is in decimal form. What's the easiest one to change it to? Yeah, percent. Go ahead. 75%. Move it over twice. Put a percent sign after it. Yeah, now we can go back here. This is 75 hundredths. Let's reduce that. Divide by 25. This is 3/4. You can check yourself. Do 3 divided by 4. You should get 0.75. You could change it there. Think about, is that what you was fixing to say something about? 75% means 75 out of 100. It's the same thing. Makes sense. Next problem says 1.375. Oops. 1.375. You got a 1 whole, right? But anyway, let's do percent first anyway. That's be easy. What is that going to be? If you do, there you go. Only 2 places. 137.5%. There's the first one. To me, it's easier to go from decimal to fraction than it is from percent to fraction. For this reason, you was talking about a while ago, percent means out of 100, but if we do this out of 100, 137.5 out of 100. Yeah, you can, but it'd be easier just to do this. Watch how I do it. This is 1 whole, because you got the 1 in front of the decimal, and what place is this? This is, so 1 whole and 375 thousandths, because tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Any questions? We can reduce that. The way they reduce it, here's how I reduce these numbers. You think about quarters. That's odd, you know, what does quarters have to do with this problem? Think about quarters, and like on top you got 375. How many cents are in a quarter? 25. Can you divide 25 into 375? Sure, that's like $3.75, right? How many 25s are in 375? Is it 19? You're exactly right. How many quarters, how many 25s are in 1,000 cents? That's $10. 40. So that'd be 1 and 19/40. Is that right? I don't know if that's right. Quarters in 375. I think you're a little bit off there. There's 4 per dollar. 4 times 3, 12, and 3 more, that'd be 15. Yeah, and then that'll reduce again. What'll go into both 15 and 40? That'll be 3 and, so 1 and 3/8. That's it. Good job. The last two.